Hello everyone, it's Charlene. Today I'm making a card with some of the new What's Brewing collection from Hero Arts. This is the coffee or tea stamp and cut, and today I'm going to be showing you how to get that lovely curvature on your stamped images when you are using alcohol markers. I have some Intens-ified Black ink here, and I have the large cup stamp all ready to go. So I'll go ahead and ink up my stamp, close my lid and press, then lift, and I'm going to ink this a second time. Love our stamp positioners because it makes it so easy. We'll go ahead and flip and press and lift. For coloring, I'm going to be working with OR 2.0, 2.1, and 2.2. And I'm starting with my lightest color. Now this is in part because we are working with some really light peaches. I do it a little bit different if I'm working with darker colors, but for light colors this works really well. And what you're going to do is you're going to find the edge of your cup and you're going to pull in from the side, and you're going to come almost all the way towards the center, leaving a very tiny white space in that center because that's later going to become our highlight. So I'll continue to flick all the way in from the right hand side, and once I finish that, I'll bring in my next darkest color, which is the 2.1. I'm going to pull this out about a third of the way across the cup from left to right, and you can see I'm flicking, but there's still a little bit of that 2.0 showing. I'll do the same thing on the right hand side, bringing it in about a third of the way, making sure that I'm still leaving some of that 2.0. Now we can move on to the darkest color, which is 2.2, and this is going to come about a fifth of the way out. So I'm going to leave some of that 2.1 showing, just like we did with the first round. So now I'll come all the way down. Note here, I'm making sure that my lines come out about the same length all the way down the cup. I did that for the left. Now I'll come in and repeat it for the right hand side. So what this does is it helps to create this nice fade towards a lighter color in the center. Once I'm finished with the darkest, I'll bring back in that 2.1, which is the medium color, and I will again bring it right back out about a third of the way into the card on each side, pulling that darker 2.2. Then to our lightest color, the 2.0, flicking it all the way towards the center, and I'm going to bring it in even a little bit farther than I did the first time, kind of making that little white space all the way down the center of the cup be pretty small. So here is our lovely finished cup here. You can see the darker shades towards the right and left, lightening up towards the highlight in the center. And this is going to smooth out some more as it dries. For this under part of the cup, I'm going to repeat the same process. And then here for the back rim of the cup, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to bring in that darkest 2.2, and I am going to put the tiniest line here to the right of the rim line. It's a little bit difficult to see. Sorry, I know my hands get in the way here, but I'm bringing it all the way up and along. And that is because that rim is behind where the coffee in our cup is going to be. Now I'm going to my 2.1, and I'm going to create a little tiny line just to the right of that dark line. So those will blend together. Now for our handle, I'm doing this different. I'm flicking teeny tiny little flicks of 2.2 going all the way around the outer edge of the handle. I'm going to do it along the rim of the cup as well. And then I will bring tiny little flicks in again, coming from the inside of the handle out towards the center of the handle. Since this is such a small space, I'm going to skip the 2.1 and go right to the 2.0, which is the lightest, and I'll run it right through the center of the handle. Now I'm going to repeat that whole process just to build up the color. For the latte, I'm going to start with some O 4.3, and I'll add 4.1 and 4.0. So with the 4.3, I'm going to start by creating a nice line going to the right hand side of that front rim of the cup. Then I'll bring in the 4.1 and I'll run it along the 4.3, not all the way on top of it, just along the edge of it so it slightly goes over to help blend. And then I'll bring in the 4.0 and that I will bring just along the top. So that way our latte is darker towards the front rim, and lighter towards the back part. Now we have this beautiful 3D cup. It's so pretty. I love this peach color. Very lovely. For the background, I'm using the Delft Floral layering stencil. It's beautiful. It has these 3 different layers. I'm going to start with the stencil that has the largest openings. And because it's the largest openings, we're going to start with our lightest color. I have cotton candy. I'll get a little on my brush, work it into those bristles so I don't get any spotting on my cardstock. And then I'll just go over the entire stencil a couple of times to help build up the color on the cardstock. I've got a pretty good amount of the cotton candy here, so I'll go ahead and remove this first stencil. You can see we have this beautiful light pink. This would look pretty as a background just by itself. Now I'm bringing in the stencil with the second largest openings. I'm going to line this up and I'll bring in some pale tomato, which is almost a red. It's a very pretty color. And I'm going very light at first again and building up the color. So I'll take it over the entire stencil, building up the color. Once I have a nice build of that, I'll go ahead and remove my stencil. And you can see this just creates all these beautiful details. Our last stencil is the most detailed layer, and I'll lay this over, and I'm bringing in sand. Now this is a great alternative to staying all in the same kind of color family. So you could come in with a darker pink or red, but neutrals work so well for detail layers. You could bring in black, you could bring in gray, you can bring in a brown. It completely changes the feel of things. I have a small strip of cardstock here cut to 1.5 by 4.25 inches. I'm gluing it right along the bottom of the panel. That'll create a nice little landing for our cup. I'm going to stamp the sentiment directly on there. It says thanks a latte, which is really cute. Stamping this out in some Intens-ified Black ink. You can always stamp over your alcohol ink coloring with this ink, which is great. Now I want to create even more of a break here, so I'm going to pick a color that works really well with our background and with our cup. So I want kind of a peachy color here, a peachy pink. So I'm going to move into my peaches. I could use Chiffon, which is really pretty, but I'm going to go with Bellini. So I'll cut a tiny strip of that, and it's going to work really well with our cup. I went with a 1/16 of an inch for my strip, so it's pretty thin. And now I'll run a line of glue next to my white cardstock right along the stenciled area of the panel. And then I can just lay my strip of cardstock right along the top, making sure it butts right up to the white cardstock. I added adhesive foam squares to the back of the cup, so I'll remove all of my release tape and lay this here on the center of our card so that the center of the cup, not necessarily the handle, is towards the center of the card panel. I decided I wanted a little bit more of a break here, so I cut another small strip of cardstock, this time in Tutu. So it's a kind of a medium pink, and I thought that would help to tie in the peach tones as well as the pink tones. So I ran a little line of glue, and I'm just tucking that pink right underneath my cup. The other thing I want to do is give us a nice frame. I think this would look lovely as is, but I always love having frames around my cards. So I'm going to cut off a little bit of the sides of this panel. I trimmed down about 1/4 of an inch for each side, added some foam tape to the back, and now I'm going to lay this over a A2 sized piece of chiffon cardstock, so a little more peach for us, adding some glue to the back and adhering it to an A2 sized card base. And you know I've got to add some bling as well, so I'm coming in here with some of the iridescent sequins from the champagne sequin mix. I feel like this just kind of takes the elegance up a little bit. Gives it a Bridgerton kind of feeling. All right, we have that beautiful background we created with the stencil. The 3D alcohol marker coloring is so fun. I hope you picked up some tips and tricks today. Please be sure to like and subscribe, as well as hit that notification bell so that I can continue to bring you more crafty content in the future. Until next time, happy crafting.